my creepy cupcakes, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing this Hills Have Eyes inspired look. Let's get into the video. For this look, I'm making my own liquid latex mask. So what I'm doing is I've already mixed up some liquid latex and some flour into a really nice paste, and I will be applying that onto my face cast. What I'm doing here is I'm just getting the liquid latex onto the mask before I start trying to make it look pretty. For this cast, I am going to be working in sections because liquid latex dries pretty fast. And what I'm doing here is, now that I have all the liquid latex on for the section I want to work for, I'm going to be dipping my finger into liquid latex because that's going to keep the liquid latex that's already on the mask from sticking to my finger. So I'm going to be dipping my finger into the liquid latex, and all I'm doing is just flattening out that liquid latex that I've already put on to try to create a very smooth surface, and then I'll be able to take my tools and start carving into it. Once I get that liquid latex all nice and smooth on the cast, I'm going to start digging my finger into the liquid latex on the cast to start making divots in the face. There's a lot of swollen texture and a lot of just swollen features that are on this face, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I've never really created a human face cast mask, and at least not from just using liquid latex paste. I have done a cotton and latex mask, so this is my first cast of just doing liquid latex. This is definitely not very easy, but I'm pretty proud of myself on the outcome of it. You can definitely just use like a plain mask from like Hobby Lobby and use some Model Magic clay, and you can apply clay on there and make your own face cast like that. But I really wanted to create my own out of liquid latex. I purchased some ceramic tools because I figured it would be really useful to use on this latex mask. Some of them were really useful, but you definitely don't have to. If you have short fingernails and you're able to get your kind of fingers into the liquid latex and start working it to make like folds and stuff like that, then you definitely don't need to really run out and purchase any tools. But I have long fingernails and it's really difficult for me to get my fingernails in there and try to like maneuver it. I purchased some tools for this, and all I'm doing is just trying to pretty much make it almost identical to the reference image, as close as I could get it to be, and then also just as long as it looked good to me, and that was all that mattered. Once I got it close to what I wanted, I just set it out for the rest of the night and just let it dry. If you want, you can definitely throw it in the microwave for like 10 seconds to dry it quickly, but I just wanted to let it air dry. Even after it sits out all night, it still actually is wet underneath the surface, so it creates a kind of a thick surface layer that is already dried, but then underneath it's still wet. So it's still a little bit moldable, and what I did off camera is I just tried to kind of use some of the tools to make some of the indentions even deeper and just try to work some of the bumps and whatnot. So that's pretty cool, and I learned that and I wanted to share that tip. Hopefully that's not confusing. And then I'm just working on this section, trying to get it as close to my reference image as I can, and you can kind of see the reference image off to the side. I'm just trying to match that up as best as possible. I think after the first section, I started kind of getting a little bit of a groove and understanding some of my tools better. So it definitely got a little bit easier to do the second time. In the future, I plan to get some type of book stand or something, some type of easel, so it'll make it easier so I don't have to hold up my mask, and then you don't have to try to see around what I'm doing. So thank you for bearing with me. For the mask, I did need to make my own teeth, and so with Ellimorph Plastic, I heated it up and cut out little pieces of teeth, and we'll get to the eye later on. I put down some liquid latex and started molding out how the mouth is going to be, and then once I got that all figured out, then I went ahead and laid down each of my teeth. Once the teeth are situated, I'm just going to be taking in my little pick tool and I'm just going to be picking around each of those teeth to just make like a gum line and then also create some stretch lines where the side of his face is actually being like stretched and pulled. There's like these little like metal staples that were in his face, kind of like pulling his cheek over, and there's a lot of stretching. So that's what I'm doing here. Once the liquid latex looks how I want and everything is situated and looks good, I let that sit out for the next couple days before I painted it, just to make sure that it did completely solidify. For the paint job, I'm going into my RCMA palette and just putting down a cream paint first as my base, and then I'm going on top of it with a liquid foundation just to get it a pretty even base coat. And this is just making it a lot easier for the shadows to stick to when I start applying an eyeshadow. In the reference image I'm looking at, there's a lot of red and pink and brown tones that are going on in the face, so I'm digging into my BH Modern Mattes palette and I'm just going to be laying down a base coat first of pinks and reds and browns, and then I'm going into my body paints and I'm going into the red tone to start going into each of the grooves, because the grooves were very bright red because the skin's super irritated. So that's what I'm doing here, is just going in each of those grooves to get that color down in there before trying to apply any colors on top. Next, I'm working with my alcohol activated paints to start putting in a little bit of a yellow color into the skin as well. Using a stipple brush to stipple on that alcohol activated paints, this is going to give it less of a patchy look and more of a natural kind of look to the face. I'm going into each of the grooves with a paintbrush, and then I'm going back over top of it with a stipple brush, and this is going to help diffuse the edge and make it give it a little bit more of a natural look. I already popped in my plastic eye, and then with body paint, I'm taking some blue body paint. I'm going to be painting the iris, and then with black body paint, I will be filling in the pupil, and then we'll come back to that after that dries. Next, I'm moving on to the teeth, and I'm just putting on kind of a light coat of yellow, or I meant to put on a light coat of yellow and it came out a bit darker, but hey, whatever, it looks cool. Going back to the eye, I wanted to make the eye look like it's a bit glossed over, so I'm taking those yellow activated paints and I'm applying the yellow on top of where the white area is, just to give it a hazy look. And then I took in some red body paints as well and just deepen out the outskirt of that eye. With white body paint, I'm just creating a highlight in the iris of the eye, just to give it some dimension, make it not look so flat. And then once that dries down, I am taking a bit more of white body paint just to create some permanent highlights. Once the mask is all dry, you're going to start removing the mask. So I'm dipping a big fluffy brush into some flour, and I'm just going to be flouring all around the edges. You want to work the edges first and then start moving into the middle so that you don't compromise or ruin the mask. Once the mask is completely removed, you just want to make sure to flour the entire inside of that mask just to make sure that there isn't any stickiness left from the liquid latex. Moving on to application time, I'm prepping my one eye with the ABH eyeshadow primer just to get a nice base down for the eyeshadows that we'll be putting on top. While the eye primer dries down a little bit, I wanted to go ahead and glue my eyebrows. This is just to ensure that none of the liquid latex sticks to them and rips them out. I'm applying the same eyeshadows that we used earlier on the mask, so just making sure that this eye is pretty dark brown, and that's going to make it easier for that mask to blend into my eye. To apply the mask to my face, I'm taking some liquid latex on a wedge sponge, and I'm just putting pretty much liquid latex almost all over the entirety of that mask except for the areas of my eyebrows. And then I'm going to be placing down the mask nose first because that's the center point. You want to make sure that it's definitely really stuck on the nose, and just push it down and make sure all the edges are nice and pushed down to your face. To conceal the edges, I'm going in with a cotton swab and some liquid latex, and I'm just going over all the edges that I can see, mostly just focusing towards the eye and the lower part on the mouth because that's where it's going to be the most visible. Once that's dried, I'm taking some translucent powder and I'm powdering those edges so that they're not going to shine through the makeup when I apply makeup on top. I'm now putting some foundation on top. This is just going to create a nice coat for my eyeshadows to stick to when I put the eyeshadows down. I want the mask to blend into my face, so I'm going in with some dark brown eyeshadows and I'm just applying those on the perimeter of the face, and then I'm going to start just kind of creating different textures on my face using those eyeshadows so that it looks bumpy and it just matches the mask. I'm taking those shadows down my neck to give a better definition of my neck and then also make it look seamless with the mask. And then I'm going to be changing into other clothes for this. And then I will be teasing my hair to make it look extra crazy. My poor hair has been teased so many times now that I cut it short. And the final step is just to apply some blood splatters. I wanted it to look like I had already had some victims. So I put that on the end of a brush and I'm just flicking that on my face. A toothbrush actually works way better than this method, so if you have a free toothbrush around, you can just use that to flick on some blood. Don't forget to bloody up your clothes a little bit, and then I also grabbed a hammer and bloodied up the hammer because I thought that would look cool with my tool, a victim tool. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you're having a good October. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!